a great dinner. You're a chef. You want to go cook a great dinner, and you go out to the butcher and you get the best piece of beef or steak that exists, right? That is, of course, a great resource that is going to allow you to separate yourself. Why? Because it is unique. Nobody else is likely to have that. Let's say that was the only piece of meat there, right? You can't imitate that meat. It's rare for a reason. I mean, again, not rare because it's cooked, it's not cooked, but rare because it is unique. And it is valuable. Most people, especially people in this area of the United States, love a fantastically lean or wonderful piece of steak. But let's say I take that steak and as an untrained chef, I put it on the grill and I burn it. Totally burn it. It's charred. It's horrible. Is that going to create demand? Are people going to say, oh, wow, let me have it? No. The problem was not with the resource, but the problem was with the way that I utilized the resource. So again, while it is important for the firm to have great resources, it is even more important for the firm to utilize the resources that it has. If you're not able to, you're going to run the risk of wasting your valuable resources. So yes, it is important for Walmart to have great supersized stores, but if it doesn't stock its stores correctly, effectively, efficiently, if it doesn't utilize all the space that is in its store, then that resource is going to be wasted. So capabilities are important, and in fact are even more important than resources. So in fact, we argue now that it is more important to have superior capabilities than to have superior resources. And the reason is because it is not just having things, but it's being able to coordinate the things. But two, going back to sustainability of competitive advantage, it is much more difficult for a firm, or for a competitor, I should say, to imitate a capability than it is to imitate a resource. Get what I'm saying? It is more difficult for a competitor to imitate a capability, that is the coordination of resources, than it is to imitate just a resource, because normally a resource is just one thing. Capability is made up of multiple resources that are put together. So for example, a great chef can take the same piece of meat that you took as an untrained chef and make it into a spectacular concoction because of his or her ability to combine all the ingredients. You can have the same ingredients as that chef, but because of their training, because of their ability to coordinate those ingredients more effectively and uniquely than you are relative to the untrained chef, their dish is going to be more spectacular, more value than the untrained chef. Same resources, different abilities to combine it. You understand what I'm saying? And for me to copy or to imitate that chef's ability, I don't just have to go get the same ingredients. I have to actually learn their way of combining, which is much more difficult than just going out to the store and buying the same ingredients that they have. So the firm must have valuable, rare, difficult to imitate resources, but the firm must also have the capabilities that are rare, unique, difficult to imitate, and valuable, that helps it combine those resources. And then those resources and capabilities, when they are combined, when they merge together, can create these firm-specific strengths. And these firm-specific strengths, in order for them to be classified again as firm-specific strengths, they have to be distinctive and also be competency. Distinctive meaning that they are unique, and that's firm specific, right? Meaning that they're rare, there's something that everybody in the industry doesn't have. But they must also be competencies. And again, competencies are not just what the firm does well. They are assets that allow the firm to increase its profitability. And how do they allow the company to increase its profitability? They can either do that through increasing revenue and or decreasing costs. And so a distinctive competence is one that, or strength, a firm specific strength, one that is unique, one that is rare, difficult to imitate, but one that is valuable, meaning that it allows the company to create customer demand, either by lowering cost or differentiating products and services. So I'm going to say that again. In order for anything to be classified as a distinctive competency, it has to be relatively unique or firm specific, meaning that it's something that the firm does or has that is different from the competitors in its industry. But beyond just being distinctive, it has to also be something that customers value. And as customers, I said before, we value two elements. One, we value low prices. But two, we also value things like quality, innovation, and customer responsiveness. And so if our distinctive competency either allows the firm to lower prices and or increase innovation, quality, and customer responsiveness, it is going to likely lead to a competitive advantage. And that's where the four building blocks come into play. Distinctive competencies can either increase efficiency and lower, therefore, prices, and or it can increase quality, innovation, and customer responsiveness and lead to greater differentiation, lead to customers wanting to purchase it. We've talked a little bit, I've already discussed value, but I'm going to go into a little bit more detail. How profitable a company becomes depends on three basic values. The value or utility that a customer gets from owning the product. So any product or service that we purchase, that we want to buy, we buy it because we see some kind of value in it. All right? So that's one element of profitability for a firm. The other element is the price that we charge for it. And the third is the cost that we incur creating it. The slide says that consumer surplus is the excess utility a consumer captures beyond the price paid. We're going to see that in a little bit, but I'm going to say the basic principle is the more utility that customers get from a company's product or services, the more pricing options that the company has. What are pricing options? Pricing options is my ability or determines my ability to charge different prices for my product or service. This statement or this principle is arguing that the more utility a consumer gets from a company's product or service, the more ability the company has to charge different types of prices. What do I mean by that? Utility. Well, we said utility is the value that a customer gets from owning a product. I also told you a little bit earlier that value comes from the price that we charge for the product, as well as all these other factors, things like innovation, customer responsiveness, quality, which tends to suggest the more customers or the more value customers see in an item, the more options it gives me in terms of price. I think an example will help us explain this. Before we go into that specific example, I'm just going to show you this chart. At the top of the chart, you're going to see U minus P. U minus P is what we call the producer's surplus. Again, the customer has a certain utility or creates puts a utility on an item. So let's say, for example, you go in to a store and you say to yourself, you know what, I'll look at this shirt and I value this shirt about $20. I mean, I'm willing to pay about $20 for this shirt. The shirt actually cost $15, right? The shirt actually cost $15. So the utility, you are willing to pay $20 for the shirt, but you actually only have to pay $15 for the shirt. That difference, that $5 difference in what you were willing to pay and what you actually paid, is what we call a consumer surplus. It's essentially that great discount you get, right? Now, let me ask you this question. The firm wants to maximize its profit, right? Firm wants to maximize its profit. So wouldn't the firm, or shouldn't the firm, price its item closest to the utility that the customer is willing to pay? For example, as a manufacturer of that shirt, If I knew that you were willing to pay $20 for that shirt, why wouldn't I charge you $20? Well, the reason is very simple. Competition. Competition drives prices down in an industry. And so the greater the level of competition, the more likely you are to see higher levels of consumer surplus, which is why you get the big sales, the discounts. What they're trying to do is create more consumer surplus. I won't say they're trying to do it, but it creates more consumer surplus because you are willing to pay. Let's say, for example, an automobile, you are really willing to pay $28,000 for that automobile, but they only charge you $20,000, and that $8,000 is your consumer surplus. You'll see in that little pink or peach colored box P minus C, and that P minus C is what we call the profit margin or the producer's surplus. Right? That's what the producer charges over the cost of the item. The P minus C. Again, with no competition or little competition, that P would be higher, and with a higher P, the producer's surplus, the P minus C, would go down. Sorry, would go up, and the U minus P would go down, meaning that the consumer would get less surplus and the producer would get more surplus, meaning the profit margin per item would be higher. Profit margin per item would be higher in a less competitive environment, which is why, you know, Swepco is making tons of money on us, because they can charge us as much as we are willing to pay for electricity. If competition were to arise, their prices would have to go down, their profit margin would have to go down. And C is the cost of production. All right? So those three elements, utility, price, and cost, determine how profitable a firm is. The firm wants to create a greater level of utility for its product. Why? Because with a greater level of utility, it gives it greater pricing options. So what are these pricing options I was talking about? The slide argues there's a dynamic relationship among utility, pricing, demand, and cost. These are two pricing options. We have option 1 and we have option 2. Option 1, what is option 1? It's raising prices to reflect value. So I'm going to use Apple and the iPhone as an example of both option 1 and option 2. So Apple creates this iPhone, I think it was back in 2003, 2004. I could be wrong on that, but somewhere around there. It creates the iPhone. And when the iPhone first comes out, what's the price of the iPhone? If I remember well, it was about $500 or $600. Why could Apple raise prices compared to the industry average at that time to such an extent? Well, it could raise those prices to such an extent because of the utility that the iPhone created for customers. It was different. It was highly innovative. There were things about it that no one had seen before. All right, the touch screen, all the different types of apps, all the different ways and the look and the feel of it. So there was innovation there. Quality, there was nothing like it in the market. Having it gave people a certain, you know, sense of superiority, one could argue, a certain aesthetic appeal. It looked nice, it was different. And the responsiveness to customers, it gave customers something that they didn't have before. They had the ability to be mobile and to have all these computerized systems on their phone in a very user-friendly manner. All of those things, all of those differentiated attributes created utility for the customer. The more utility we get, the more these differentiated attributes are included and packaged, the more we're willing to pay. For example, let's say you were booking a trip to a resort, and the resort said, hey, you know, we're going to charge you this price, and all you get is a bed. We get a bed and a room, you know, 4 walls and a bed. That's the first option. That's, you know, basic accommodation. Then you got the deluxe option. The deluxe option, you got a bed, 4 walls, and you get concierge service. Okay, and you get airport shuttle. Okay, great. And it's charged more. It's priced more than the basic accommodation. And so I sit down and I say, okay, well, I can see why I'm paying a little more for this.